Hi friends, strangers, internet. My name is EmilyHanhan. I love colorful makeup and colorful language. So I'm here today to put on this full face of makeup and also talk about something kind of near and dear to my heart. That is asexuality and how my life as a fat person led me to asexuality or being asexual. I just finished filming and there were some tears towards the end, so I'm feeling a lot of things, but I just wanted to talk about this because it's something that is near and dear to me, which I feel like I just said, and I wanted to share it with you all. And hopefully if you are somebody that is asexual, or you are finding your place in life in terms of the sexual spectrum, or even just coming to know yourself as a fat person, you might appreciate this Get Ready With Me. I want to say from the jump off, if you like colorful makeup, lots of opinions, and cute fat babes in general, I would love for you to subscribe. Perhaps check out my Patreon and membership, my social medias. All of it is in the description box. And today's makeup, I wanted to also thank YesStyle, because I have more makeup from YesStyle that has inspired this look. So today's makeup is a bunch of red themed makeup. I have a cream blush from Can Make. I have a little neutral eyeshadow palette from Rev. I also have a chunky peachy glitter, liquid glitter. I have this red lip from rom&nd and a deliciously creamy brown pencil from McQueen NY. I will have everything that I've used from YesStyle today linked in the description box, and it is affiliate links. I have an affiliate code from them. I don't use this stuff to pressure anybody to do it, to buy it, but I also appreciate that I can pick up some new makeup to play with for free through YesStyle. So that is part of the makeup that we're using today. These kinds of talky Get Ready With Me's, we're never really focusing on the makeup, so if you have any questions about anything that I use or do in this video, leave me a comment. Otherwise, we're going to talk about some stuff. We're talking about fat liberation and sexuality and feelings and memories. It's a slightly heavier topic, and I just wanted to let everyone know that before we get started. But otherwise, we will just jump into this full face of red makeup. I am just going to talk through, it's a little bit of like my life story. And we're not really going to talk about the makeup, but if y'all have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. So I feel like for me, the easiest way for me to tell this story, the way that the story makes the most sense for me, is to start from the beginning. So I have always been fat. I have not just like chubby baby fat. I've always been fat. And if you were not fat in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, but maybe you are fat now or whatever, the clothing options were much more limited based on where I lived and all of that. I also have a family that's pretty conservative, we'll say that. And the concept of kids having body autonomy, not really something that they practice. So for me, my clothes were always dictated by parents, in particular by my mom, because that's who I would be shopping with. From a very young age, the kind of clothes that I had access to and that I was wearing are what you would call grandma clothes. Like you know, grandmas nowadays, and probably back then too, wear whatever they want. But Alfred Dunner and brands like that.
These are Alfred Dunner plus size clothes in 2021. Just imagine my torment in the 1990s. Face spam.
The options were basically the plus size section of like a JCPenney or Macy's or things like that. What does that mean when you're a young fat person? That means that there was a lot of, you know, brightly colored pants and tops with weird embroidery on them, and even things like just cute jeans or dresses or stuff were just really not accessible. So I think for me, that really framed out how I viewed myself and then how other people viewed me. Now, there is also something that can be very isolating about being a fat person, because I was definitely bullied throughout, you know, school, and I also had experiences where people that I thought were my friends turned into not being my friends. So I had friends. You might call me a social butterfly. Not that I was like a cool kid, but I had like a mix of different friend groups. But I also struggled with feeling all that like connected, because there is this feeling of like, okay, well, at any moment, these people that I think are my friends could literally turn on me. And if you've never been bullied, or forgot what it's like that sounds dramatic, but it really is not. So all of these things kind of created this mixture, the perfect storm of part of my early kind of development. My personality was very much like, yes, I have friends, but also like I could totally just spend time with myself. Play with Barbies, play with dolls, coloring books, do art, read books, be on the internet as I got older. And so those kinds of behaviors also kind of created this self-isolation in terms of like people theoretically being interested in me in any kind of dating way. I don't even want to say romantic, because I think it's fucking weird to say romantic when you're in like middle school, high school. For me, like looking back, I felt like the combination of wearing clothes that were very specifically super mature and not fashionable made me, I think, not a target for dating. And because bullies are assholes, and like I basically from early on I was like, you know what, I'd rather just protect myself. Like and it wasn't even like, oh, if you don't like me, that's fine, I love myself, because that was not true. But it was more like, I can hate myself enough for the both of us, okay? I don't need somebody in my life that hates me. Like, that was the reality. It was like, okay, if people aren't showing interest in me, and probably a lot of it is like inherent, I also wasn't showing that much interest in them. Like, even the whole boy crazy behaviors, as it's stated, as it's called, like, I had some friends that were like that, and I was just like, I don't get it, but okay. And I think from an early age, I wasn't even really concerned about like, am I straight? am I gay? Am I a lesbian? Like, I was just kind of like, well, if no one's showing interest in me and I'm just gonna want to protect myself, then like I'll figure it out when I figure it out. So yeah, like, whereas I think that for a lot of fat people, they do, even at a very young age, they do get fetishized and all of that, and that can also be really harmful and toxic. Fetishization is not, like, don't ever try to spin it as a plus. I'm just gonna say that. And because I was quite obviously like not showing interest in other people, and then I was also presenting as a 90-year-old in the body of a 90-year-old, I don't know, like, being a fat kid is tricky. But anyway, I was not kind of that, you know, trendy. I didn't feel modern is what it was. Like, the clothes felt so so old and so like mature that I didn't feel like I was like a modern member of society. I felt like I was stuck in this like space of being an old person in a young person's body, but I also, you know, was probably being perceived as more mature because I was also like not actively being boy crazy, or I didn't really drink and do that kind of stuff and I guess misbehave, you might say, you know, as a kid. I just didn't. Definitely had a lot of that, like, I am going to take up the least amount of space possible, which I'm still working on now. I mean, that's basically, like, I was gonna say through high school, but I feel like that even carried in through college because, you know, I was still like wearing clothes and things that I had from high school in college. So I think people underestimate the power of spending, you know, the first 18 to 24 years of your life kind of living in this body where you're like, yeah, it just a lot of, I guess I have to wear these things because I don't have another choice. Because I spent so many years of my life in a body wearing clothes that I didn't like, I didn't enjoy wearing, I didn't feel cute in. So yeah, I feel like it's pretty obvious that all of that time would make you a person that's like I was not that in tune with my own body. And I think by the time I went off to college, I didn't know asexuality. I didn't really know that phrase. I didn't know it, but I knew I had gotten this far without being with another person. I was a virgin when I went to college, and I don't want to say I didn't feel any pressure, but if I had to like say it simply, that is kind of it. I think it's hard for me to just admit like, yeah, I was cultivating this persona that was very isolated, because that makes me sad to say, if I'm being honest, but that is the reality. I was like, you know, I'm a good friend. I'm a bit of a nerd. I knew I was weird from a really young age. A bit artsy creative, but like not as cool as a lot of the like really creative types seem to be. And I was the fat friend, and that does really define kind of how you see yourself. And I mean, I did have a friend, one of my best friends that I like met in kindergarten. She was also fat, but she was like the other extreme of, for better or worse from a young age, kind of really owning her sexuality and, didn't have the push or the control. Tyrion, I need you to not be here right now, okay? Go back there. Good boy. It's like there's no room up here for you. But from a very young age, she was like very much in ownership of her sexuality. And like I said, for better or worse, because I look back now and think, what we know now in terms of consent and all of that. And I guess I hadn't even talked about this. For me and sexuality, I did, even though I had, kind of in a way made a choice to not fuck with, literally and figuratively, people, I was exploring my own sexuality. I definitely, here's the thing, I enjoy an orgasm. I do. And I learned from a pretty quickly in my experimentation with myself that, like, I need a vibrator. I need that to make it happen. And so I enjoy that. And I think that was also the part about asexuality that I got very confused about when I started learning about it. Because I was like, but I mean, I can make myself orgasm and I really enjoy it. Well, me and my toys, but it's still me doing it. And so I think that was also one of the confusing parts at a younger age. I enjoy that part of it. So like maybe it's just that I, need to work on how I view myself and what I think of myself, my body image stuff. And then there was also, to be honest, as I'm talking this out, also realized that, like, a lot of how I felt about myself, I was definitely living in the mind space of, like, when I lose enough weight, then I will be valid to start exploring dating and sex and all of that. I expected to talk about this, but I kind of forgot about how some of this stuff affects me. So I think that was a big part of it. A lot of my life, I think, if I'm being honest, pre-age like 25, 26, 27, a lot of that life was lived being like, when I lose weight, that is when I will be valid to do XYZ thing. And that's really fucked up. It's really, like, it's incredibly fucked up the way so many fat people are trapped in the in-between. And the other reason why it's really fucked up is that people still believe that we are fat by choice and that we could be skinny if we just worked harder. And if you happen to be a believer of that and you are watching this, I hope that you will one day change your mind and educate yourself, because that is not the reality whatsoever. And the reality is that I spent the first 25 to 30 years of my life really hating myself and thinking that I wasn't worthy of a lot of things, including a relationship. Now, by the time I realized that that was bullshit in terms of my worth and what I deserve, I also had learned that, like, that's not actually what I want. But I do often think about, like, did I get to that point because of my experiences, or, like, was I always asexual? Because I do think that sexuality is complex, but I do think that there's, like, a nature-nurture combination to it. I think that's what I think about a lot. It's like there's a nature-nurture combo, and I think that people underestimate the power of, like, your experiences, the way the people closest to you treat you, all of these things. Like I said, when I was younger, I discovered orgasms. I quite enjoy them. To be very, like, crystal clear. No penetration, please and thank you. Clitoral only. Okay. So, I have had a couple of experiences with more than one gender. I learned that it wasn't for me. I knew it already. Okay, this is what I wanted to say. Okay. Now that I have applied my eyeshadow, let me finish what I was saying. You do not have to experience different forms of sex to understand your sexuality. If you are asexual or if you are anywhere on the spectrum, just because you have not experienced certain things doesn't mean you don't know that you are that. If you are pansexual but you've never been with anyone, but you know you're pansexual, you are pansexual. If you are lesbian but you've never been with a woman, but you know that's what you want, you are lesbian. And if you have never had sex but you know you're asexual, you are asexual. So that was really important for me. That's one of those things that I wish I knew before I ended up doing the things that I did. Because I learned that, you know, I was correct. I was correct. Even though I knew that, even though I had those experiences, I had one in college, and then one probably my late 20s, maybe mid 20s, but I had those experiences and knew this is not for me. But I had a hard time listening to myself because they weren't great experiences. Let's just put it that way. Without getting too in depth, they were not great experiences. I would not do them again. But I also had to realize that I don't owe that to anyone, and that I'm not wrong.
A big layer to being a fat kid and growing up with family whose constant goal was my weight loss. I was never taught body autonomy. I didn't know I could trust myself. I couldn't even take care of my own body, aka lose weight. So why would I listen to myself? That had long-term effects, including my sexuality.
And I don't have to try again just because that's what society likes to pressure us into thinking. I think a lot of us get told that we don't really know if we are what we are because we've never tried. And you don't owe trying to anyone. You really do not. You don't owe it to anyone. So basically, I, had a couple of random sexual experiences. I continued to explore stuff myself. And I continued to, enjoy, I can enjoy reading, erotica, and things like that. That's something that I do enjoy. And I think that's also the hard part is that, I still struggle with how I feel like I truly identify because there are parts of kink and BDSM where I'm I would be interested in trying that out, perhaps, maybe. But the reality is that it's definitely all about trust and being in that right moment, and I just haven't been there, and I don't know if I ever will be there. I think that's something that has also been hard to understand with my asexuality, because I do have moments in time where I'm okay, but I can look at a person and objectively be like, oh, they are motherfucking hot. And think in my head, like, I mean, the possibility of doing something with that person could maybe entice me. But then I also usually remember, like, no, but you can still appreciate that they're a hot person. And that was a hard thing to come to understanding too, is being like, well, I can appreciate someone's hotness, but not necessarily need to do anything. So here's something that I kind of came to realization about. So it took until I was probably in my early 30s, realistically, my early 30s, before I finally felt like, I'm fat. I'm going to stop harming my body by trying to do diets. I am going to stop harming my brain by hating my body, and really working at body positivity, and then body neutrality, and then now I'm in the space of fat liberation. And I'll try to link some resources below if you're unfamiliar with any of those terms, especially if you struggle with body image and things like that, because it can be very important. The reality was that until I started truly accepting myself and fighting against the basically oppressive tactics of fat phobia, I hadn't really accepted my asexuality until I accepted myself. I'm not going to cry. But honestly, like, it wasn't until was it it was either 2.5 or 3.5 years ago. I feel like it was probably 2.5 years ago that I use the word to describe myself. I actually often spend Christmas with one of my closest friends, and that Christmas Day, I think we were watching The Office reruns, and we were just talking, and it ventured into this world, and it was like, yeah, I think the word is asexuality, or asexual. I think that's what I am. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're any age, just know that, like, you can figure it out at any point in time. And even once I put a name to it, it still took time to kind of talk about it publicly. It took time to publicly kind of discuss it. And I don't even necessarily know why, because sometimes it can be easier to be publicly vulnerable on the internet than in real life. But I do think it's just that sometimes it's just easier to not talk about things. And I think that I definitely had that perspective where I was like, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. But the magic for me of talking about these kinds of things, once I started talking about it, I found people who were also asexual. And there's this just my community of friends through the internet are so amazing. And not even close friends, but just talking about it led other people into my life that are also asexual or demisexual or anywhere in that spectrum, or exploring or anything like that. So it's been worth it to talk about it. And the other thing best kind of unexpected side effects of finding asexuality, of finding that word. And I actually think that my timing for talking about this is kind of perfect, because I had this moment last night. I was spending time with my two closest friends, my pod family here in Brooklyn. And they were both talking about, you know, dating, and they're both in the midst of that kind of stuff, having gone through breakups, and like, not to share their shit, but anyway, they're in the midst of that. And for years, even with the people that I felt like I was closest with, I always had to kind of like dance around questions like, oh, so are you dating? Are you this? Are you that? And like, I never felt like, oh, this friend is just like being an asshole and being so invasive and trying to like I know it was coming from a place of love, because for them, being with somebody was really important for them. And it's not just one friend, like this has happened with multiple friends. And I always had to dance around it and kind of just say like, yeah, no, or like, yeah, everyone's just kind of an asshole, or like whatever. Basically lie through my teeth of saying that I was looking when I totally wasn't, because I was just like, I don't want it. And by having a word, I don't have to lie. I can just be like, yeah, no, like last night, chattering about, I said it to Audra, about flirty stuff. And I could just appreciate the conversation, appreciate who they were interested in and what they were doing and what they were up to, and not have to fill part of the conversation with like, oh my god, I have to not cry right now. I didn't have to fill the conversation with fluff, with small talk, with lies. I could just sit there and appreciate what they're doing, who they're talking to, what they're going through, and, you know, share other parts of myself, and not have to basically live a lie. And it's really, really amazing. And I didn't think it would impact me as much, but just like after having last night's kind of hangout, I was like, oh yeah, just having a word for it just helps me live in it and own it without it like owning me in a negative way. I'm asexual, and if things ever change, if I'm like, oh, I found that there's this label for this kind of sexuality and that actually feels like a better fit, then things might change. But for now, that's where I'm at. So basically, finding fat liberation helped me find my sexuality. And I hadn't fully connected those dots until right now. So if you enjoyed this Get Ready With Me, definitely subscribe. Leave me a comment. I don't know. Just let me know that you enjoyed it. Thumbs up the video. That would also be helpful. Share it with somebody that's on their own sexuality or fat liberation journey, or on a journey that includes both. And thank you all for spending a bit of your day with me. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much to my patrons and my members. And don't forget to take care of yourself better today than you did yesterday. Bye, friends.